What's up, everybody? We are back at the Fryer place. Don't see anybody yet, but it's good to be back from vacation. We weren't able to do a show or present a show last week because we were actually in an airplane. It'd be tough to do virtual broadcast, a podcast from the airplane. So we had to take a break last week. We apologize for that, but we are back in the studio live. Here we are at the Fryer place where the conversations are fire. Yeah, we want to give you a chance to come on board, tap in the comments, throw in the comments, let me know you're here so we can converse back and forth. We have a interesting show for you today. Have a little bit of a treat for you at the first part of the show. We did announce yesterday. We threw a promo up in Facebook and on Instagram saying that we're going to be talking about, or I'm going to be talking about, or maybe we'll be discussing my time in prison. So that'll give you an opportunity to ask me any questions, to make any comments. We see a couple of people. See you, Vinny. What's up, my friend? Good to see you. Always supported. Let me move that around so I have that in the right spot. Right over there. There you go. Right over there. There's Vinny Capriotti, longtime friend of mine. Sister Rashida, good to see you. One of the members of our church, TNJ. Faithful member. That's a blessing to a pastor. Another faithful member, Sister Sally Davis. Yep, welcome back, Pastor. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, it's good to be back too. I mean, yeah, a few days ago I was in Cancun. That was nice. And then when you think about flying back to New Jersey, Cancun. Well, actually, Cancun, New Jersey. But we're back. Got to get back to work. Snap back to reality. Richard Melton, cousin, what's going on? I got to move you over. You got a long comment here. Facebook communication. I just been invited to the Facebook communication. All right. Somebody invited you. My mother. It's, you know what? It's good to know when a mother supports a son, no matter what, that's a good thing. Yo, sisters, when you're checking out a brother, trying to get with a brother, and if his mother don't like him, chances are he's not a good brother. If your mama don't like you, you're in bad shape. And I thank God my mama at least likes me. Amen. We want to start preaching on the fireplace. That's not what we do. But preaching is, if we're preaching the word, that's a hot conversation. Brother Duckett, listen, I got a story about Brother Duckett for all of you who don't know who that is. He is also a member of our church. He says, "Hey, Pastor, this cat was in a motorcycle accident. He's my armor bearer, and he was in a motorcycle accident just about 4 months ago. Man, when I went to see him in the hospital, didn't even know if he was going to be able to walk again. Last Saturday, he walked in the church. Now that means he walked without a cane. That means he was driving because I didn't see anybody come in with him. And that is just a flat out miracle of God. So we thank God for him. We thank God for his support. While everybody's still coming in, we have a few people in. We got about 8 watching right now. Like I said, I got a little bit of a treat. Have a treat for you with regards to our vacation. Sister Fryar and I'm going to show you some of what took place. Sherry Brown, God bless you. Good to see you. Hey, Pastor. Y'all need, listen, for the Fryer place, just say, hey, Fryer or Irving. No, it's okay. You can say Pastor. That's who I am. That's who I am to you. No, cousin, I'm saying I'm not in Facebook is what he said. Okay. I'm not in the Facebook communication. Okay, do you have a Facebook page? Rich, do you have a Facebook page? If you don't have a Facebook page, or actually have to go to my page and like my page, then you'll get the notifications anytime I post. So if you go to Irving Fryar on Facebook, and I'll friend you. Yes, I will. I promise. I'll friend you and you'll get the notifications. Listen, before we move forward, I want to do my shout outs like I need to every week here on the Fireplace. I want to make sure we let you know that this does not happen all on my own, in my own intelligence, in my own strength, in my own ingenuitative abilities. There's people who help. Alicia Way, like you see these overlays, you see all that stuff going in and coming out and going in. And the fireplace popping in at the top up there. Yeah, the fireplace popping in and out at the top. That's Alicia Way. Thank you, sir. Lou Rogers, Vision Audio Visual. He also assists us at the church. He has done these, the videography. When we have videos of our guests, when we have guests on, he puts that together for us. So we thank God for him. I'm trying to get, she's working now, but we're working on getting our in-studio assistant back, my daughter, Adrian. We're working on that, all right? I'm going to do the best that I can, but she's working. Her job has her working on Fridays, so she's unavailable now. Don't forget, please don't forget that this podcast is being brought to you by Ecamm, virtual software that is made for Mac that carries your message across the world. So let me see who else is here. Jamie, good to see you. Hello, Jamie. All right. Listen, I want to set this up because I do have a little something for you here at the beginning before we get to the conversation about my time in prison. And I do want to talk about that. Since we talked about the trial, there's some things that have happened. I've been contacted by some people who were watching, whose names I mentioned. And it's been a very interesting couple of weeks trying to get them on the show. But I guess they don't want to come on the show because they don't want to do this conversation about some of the things that I feel or the facts about what happened or did not happen. I guess they don't want to come on and discuss them live with everybody watching. Brother King, good to see you. Great golf tournament. Oh, I wish I had my, I don't have my plaque. We won the tournament and they gave us a great big, Serena, if you can get my trophy from the other day and bring it to me, if you can hear me, my wife's in the other room. Bring me that trophy I won the other day. Am I talking too loud? Brother King, yeah. Okay. Brother King, that was a great tournament. God bless you, man. Love you. We're going to help you out with the next tournament. It's going to be even greater. It was absolutely marvelous. She heard me. So listen, I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is the first place. Let me see if I can get in here. The first place prize for the other day. You see that? Yeah, it's a picture, big old frame, a picture of the tournament or the golf course, I should say, River Wings, one of Ron Jaworski's golf courses, and you see it says first place. Yeah, we were hitting that ball the other day. This is nice. This is the best. I got a trophy behind me. I don't know if you can see it, but it's back there from another tournament that I won. But man, that's nice right there. Y'all see that? That was Brother King put that together. That's awesome. Hopi, my sister Hope. Hello. That's what she has to say. Hello. Jamie says, congratulations. Jamie, we went out there and kicked some behind. We hitting that ball, putting it in the hole. That's what you got to do. Yeah. Brian says, congrats, champ. But listen, I want to set this up. Let me put a little music behind me. I want to set this up. Very nice. Yes, it's a very nice. I got to put that up on the wall somewhere in here so I can display it during the fireplace. My cousin says nice, even though he can't play golf. You can't play golf. I can play golf. Come on around, cuz I'll teach you a little something. But anyway, let me set this up. You know, we just came off of vacation. My wife and I, my lovely wife and I love her. It's good to have a wife that you love. Amen. That you can count on and you can depend on. That's a jewel. That is a helpmeet. That's what God gave us our wives for. A man that finds a wife finds a good thing. I don't want to start preaching, but I love her. So when we got married, she talked me into going on vacations. Prior to that, I really didn't care too much for vacations because the few times that I went on a vacation, when I came back from the vacation, there was always something negative waiting for me. So I said, okay, well, I'd rather just stay home and face the negativity if it's coming, rather than go somewhere and have a good time and let my guard down. It's just me, and let my guard down and then come back and all hell done broke loose, and it just messes up everything that I just went and tried to, get restored and renewed and revived from. So anyway, she talked me into going on a vacation every year. So we go in September to Cancun. We started a few years back. The last time we went, the first time we went, didn't get in the water, didn't do any of that kind of stuff. So the last time we went, which was 3 years ago, didn't go last year because of COVID, but 3 years ago when we went, she kind of pulled a trick on me. So she talked me in not only to going to Cancun and on the vacation, and that was the second time that we went. So I was prepared, and I knew what we were in for, and I like it there. I really do. I have a good time. But when we got there, she decided, or asked me, or again, finagled the situation to get me to go out on this boat ride. Okay. So hey, Auntie Ruth Ann, my Auntie Ruth Ann, love you, sweetheart. Love you so much. Pray that you're doing well. Jamie says, make good shepherd's pie. I love shepherd's pie. Jamie's the part of the Green Legion. And when they say shepherd's pie, I kind of scream because I love shepherd's pie. Anyway, let me finish. Can I set this story up? Y'all keep talking amongst each other in the comments. But listen, Tanti says hi. Yes, I'm put that back up there. Tanti says hi. So she talked me into going out on this boat ride. Now I'm thinking it's 2-man boats. She and I are going to be in a boat. We're going to be following a guide. There are going to be other boats either in front of us or behind us, but it's a convoy of boats going out on this boat ride. It's speedboats. Cool, no problem. So we get on the boats, we go out, and the guide is taking us around, and we're on the boat speeding, just having a good time for about 15 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes. And then we come to this open area, and the guide calls us all together, and he begins to tie the boats up together. And after he gets the boats tied together, he starts giving us these directions. He starts handing out snorkels and handing out flippers, and he starts giving us directions on snorkeling. I'm looking at Serena like, we get ready to go snorkeling? I've never snorkeled in my life. I really don't like the water that much. I do get in the ocean when we go to Cancun because the water there is beautiful. The sand is real soft. I've had some bad experiences in the ocean, so I really have shied away from the ocean at that point, up to that point. So now we're going snorkeling. So they give me the snorkel, he gives me the mask, I got the flippers on, I got the life jacket on, I jump in the water, and there's this roped off area that's about 50 or 60 meters wide, but it's real long, okay? And there's people in there snorkeling. There's coral in there, there's fish. There's a roped off designated area where people can go snorkel and see all kinds of fish and coral and all that kind of stuff. So I put the mask on, I put the snorkel on, and I try to snorkel. Now, when you put a mask on, a snorkel mask on, it pitches your nose like this, okay? And I had a hard time breathing like that. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get myself to breathe through the snorkel with my mouth. I couldn't do it. So Serena, she's snorkeling, going back and forth and whatnot. So now the guide, after he gets everybody together in the designated area, they start to go snorkel. They're swimming down, the length of this roped off area. He looks at me and he says, sir, are you coming with us? And I grabbed my life jacket like this, and I started flipping my feet. And I said, no, I'll be right here when you get back. And I stayed in the same spot for 40 minutes, treading water just like this, holding on to my life jacket. Now, Serena stayed with me, but she kind of swam right around the area where I was, looking at the fish, snorkeling, and looking at the coral, but I stayed right in the same spot. So we get back on the boat, we go back. So that bothered me. Because for one, I wasn't prepared. I didn't know that's what we were going to do. And it bothered me that I could not conquer that. It was like when Serena and I were going to one of her family reunions, and we had to drive over the Chesapeake Bay. That's what I guess the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. It's a bridge that's real close to the water. And we get to the bridge, and I couldn't drive. I started driving over the bridge. I had to pull over. I'm like, Serena, I can't do this. It's just water everywhere, and you're real close, and I couldn't get my bearings. So Serena had driven over the bridge before, and she drove over it, and we went to the family reunion. And while we were there, and I told her, because this is me, listen, I'm driving over that bridge on the way back. I don't care. I can't let that beat me. So on the way back from Virginia, family reunion, I drove over the bridge. Slow. It was slow, and it was intentional. I was both hands on the steering wheel, but I got over that bridge, and I overcame what I could not accomplish on the way down. So this was the same kind of thing. So last year in December, at Christmas time, Serena bought us, because I thought it was a problem with, the snorkel coming out of the water and me having that thing in my mouth. I just couldn't get myself to breathe. So she bought a full face snorkel mask for both of us and some flippers. So I told her, I said, well, I'm going to test it while we're there in the bathtub before we go out, into the water, just to make sure this thing works. So I did that. And I'm gonna leave it right there, and I'm gonna show you all our trip in Cancun, or a portion of our trip in Cancun, the portion where we went snorkeling. This is gonna be a few minutes. I hope you enjoy this. But there's some funny parts in it too. Y'all watch this. Oh, that's the wrong one. I meant to bring, wait a minute. Here we go. That's me again. I'm sorry. Here we go. Go. Oh my God. Put my face down.
Can you breathe?
I'm breathing. I'm talking too. Wait a minute. I got a leak.
You got a leak.
Let's try it again. There's a little water in my mouth.
What's that water in your mouth?
I'm breathing. We're good.
God.
Let me see the camera.
What is it?
You're the camera. That's me underneath the water. It's working. I ain't going no deeper than this. I guess we're all ready and set to go out and do the real thing. All right, that's good. Next thing, take two. Woo. That was different. Boat stop. We got a dead boat. Uh-oh. That's Alonzo, our guide, trying to help one of the boats from the other tours. I guess he got it started. There they go. They just cut off like that, huh? They started right back up. Here we go again. On our way. Woo! That's Alonzo's. I guess that's his, I don't know if it's a mating call or a boat call. But we're on our way to the site where we're going to drop anchor, tie the boats up, and snorkel. See you when we get there.
I have only 2 rules, guys. Yes? First rule, nobody can stand up in the coral and don't touch the coral. If you stand up in the coral, you kill the coral. If you touch it, you can cut. So every time swim around the coral, never up, okay? Around the coral, yes? Okay, now, and the second rule, please, nobody can take nothing off the water for go home. Sometimes the people think, oh, this is amazing, it's really pretty, I want it for my bedroom, for my kitchen. Please don't do it. If you see something beautiful and another people take another thing and another thing and another thing, in 2 weeks we don't have nothing beautiful to see. So please remember 2 very easy rules. First rule, don't stand up and don't touch the coral. And second rule, don't take nothing. I go with you and I stay close to you, okay? Remember, big secret, if you see any shark, only pushing the nose, okay? Carefully with the teeth when you bite the shark. Only pushing the nose, the shark, and you are safe. Yes, okay? I stay close. If you see any shark, only tell me, Alonso, shark over here, and I go to rescue, okay?
I enjoyed putting that together. Hope you enjoyed it. We had a good time. Now, what actually happened, just so you know, yeah, we had a good time. Hope said, oh, Hope was there too. We had a good time. Let me move that up. We had a good time. I'm not a good snorkeler either. Yeah, Hope was there as well. She was on the vacation with us with Mother. Absolutely beautiful. Love the music. You love the music to the video? Yeah. So I'll get to snorkeling. He mentioned the sharks. He said the sharks weren't working that day. It was a Sunday. It was actually a Sunday. So he said the sharks weren't working. So no need to worry. Yeah, that's what Alonzo said. But actually what happened, I ended up not using the full face snorkel mask because, yes, it was working in the tub and I was fine in the tub. I was breathing. I got a little leakage. There was a little bit of water that came in. But when I put the mask on and got in the water, and I actually had my camera on the front of the mask, and I put my face in the water and started swimming over to the designated area. By the time I got to the designated area, I couldn't, it was like I couldn't breathe enough air. I couldn't get enough air from the snorkel. Now, from the mask. So while I was in the tub, I wasn't moving around. So I wasn't exerting any energy. I wasn't breathing any harder. I was breathing normal. But when you get in the water and you start swimming, kicking and swimming and all, and you do it for any length of time, you start breathing heavier. So that mask, the full face mask, would not allow me to pull in enough air. So by the time I got to the rope, I pulled it off and I'm like, I'm huffing and puffing. I'm like, this ain't gonna work. This is not gonna work. Now Serena, she's swimming around. She got her full face mask on and she's swimming and everything's fine. I'm like, what in the name of Jesus is going on with this? So I went back to the boat, got back in the boat. And then I said to myself, I said, you know what? I didn't come all this way not to conquer this, not to get in this water and film this adventure. So Alonzo, our guide, he gave me his mask, just his mask, no snorkel. And we both talked about it. I said, well, I'm just going to swim like I normally swim. That's, the snorkeling part of it, trying to breathe with the snorkel out of the water and trying to make sure that the snorkel doesn't go down too far. And I'm, always thinking about sucking in water. Let me just put the mask on. And when I want to go in the water, hold my breath and go in the water. When I run out of breath, come back up like you do normally. But I have the goggles on so I can see. And that's what I did. I went back in, went back over to the area, and all I had on was the snorkel, the mask. I didn't have the snorkel on, so I swam around and I had the camera in my hand and I filmed the fish. And when I wanted to go underwater, I just stuck my face under the water, held my breath, and when I got ready to come up, I came up. So that's how I'm going to snorkel from now on. I got it licked. I got it licked. When we go snorkeling from now on, forget the snorkel. I'm not trying to breathe underwater. That's not normal. If God wanted us to breathe underwater, he would have given us gills like he gave the fish. No. So I will hold my breath, and I got a lot done just holding my breath and snorkeling. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to move on to the next part, what we said we were going to talk about today, and that's my time in prison. We 2 shows ago, which was the last time we were in the studio, the show after that, Keith Pelzer, we were in Cancun, and Keith Pelzer was our guest host, and he was just absolutely great. And we ended up talking like an hour and a half, which, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure we stay on time. So, you guys laughing? Richard, I'm over here laughing so hard right now. I think Vinny said, thanks for making my day. Where is that at? Yeah, Vinny said, thanks for making my day. I'm glad I could make your day, Vinny. That you're having a good time laughing at me. That's okay. It's all right. We have to make ourselves vulnerable. And I thought that would be pretty good. I thought you would enjoy that. Anyway, those of you who tuned in a few weeks ago, we talked about the sentence and the trial and the sentencing that took place at the end of the trial. There was a lot of flabbernacle. There was a lot of gray area, just a lot of things that did not look right, did not sound right in that trial. And I hope that I was able to present the facts to you, at least some of them. That they weren't all of them, but I presented some of the more pertinent ones, I believe, to you. By the way, I did get a text message from those of you who watched back then. My friend back then, Jerry Hosted. I got a text message from him. It was a very humble, he was humble. He wasn't, attacking me or anything like that. And at the end of it, he apologized for all that I've been through and all that he doesn't understand, all of that I'm still going through. And my wife and I are still dealing with what took place back then. The aftermath of it doesn't seem like it's ever going to go away. But anyway, I invited him to come on the show without he and I talking like we did before and talk. And he said no. And I can understand that. But I do appreciate him reaching out. I'm still going to try to get him on the show. I'm going to reach out to him and we're going to talk. And I'm still going to try to get him on the show so you can hear it from his perspective. Amen. All right. So I ended up being sentenced to 5 years. I had a 5-year sentence. When the judge said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, 5 years. I think I was 51 or 52 at the time. And man, I'm counting to myself, wow, I'm going to be, like 58 years old when I get out of prison. That was my immediate thought. But little did I know, in the system, in the judicial system, in the court system, in the sentencing system, when you have a 5 flat, when your sentence is a flat sentence, that's better than having a sentence with a stipulation, or as they call it on the inside, a stip. So had they given me a 5-year sentence with, say, a 1-year stipulation, a 1-year stip, then I would have had to stay in prison for at least a year with that 1-year stipulation, at least a year before I became eligible for anything like ISP that I was on, intensive supervision program, or parole or probation or anything like that. So I had a 5 flat, and I think I may have discussed that with you or mentioned it to you when I talked about what I believe was an angel that God sent when I was in the county, my first day there. And he talked about, when he asked me the questions about what was my sentence and so on and so forth. And then he said what was going to happen. And actually what he said, that's why I believe he was an angel. What he said, everything that he said did happen. Didn't see him any time after that. Just saw him for those few minutes, and it was just a few minutes, and he was gone. And then everything began to play out as I spent my time in prison. So while I was there, the sentencing took place in the county buildings, the county court in Burlington County in Mount Holly. So immediately they took me downstairs to the county prison. Now, understand this. God was working. His hand was on me and with me the entire time, right from the beginning. What do you mean by that, Irving? What I mean is this. When they took me downstairs, they cuffed me. And by the way, they had this huge, they must have thought I was going to cause a fit or cause a problem, because they had this gigantic police officer in the courtroom that guided me downstairs. This cat must have been, he's like the biggest human being I've ever seen in my life. They must have thought I was going to fight or try not to go or something like that, or resist or whatever. But this dude was like 4 times bigger than me. It was funny. And I didn't notice to him until right before the judge started sentencing me. And that's when I knew that she was going to declare me guilty. I'm like, they have this cat in here so he can wrestle me if I decide I'm going to go, but I ain't going to go quietly. But he took me downstairs. I was handcuffed. You saw it. They walked me through the courtroom. They do that for media purposes. They handcuff you and walk you in front of the camera and walk you out of the room. So it's all dramatic and all, and put you in this, they put me in a elevator and took me downstairs and took all my clothes. I had to take everything off and put on the jail clothes, the orange jail clothes. So now they have all my clothes and my cell phone so I'm sitting in a cell, And I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to get him in trouble. But immediately I noticed one of the COs was a guy that I went to school with. Yeah, that I went to school with. And he comes over to me and says, Irving, you need to make some calls? I said, yeah, but I don't know anybody's numbers because they're in my phone. So he told one of the other COs, bring him over here. And I sat behind his desk. He says, go get his phone, go get his clothes, go get his phone and bring it here. So he went and got my clothes, got my phone. And I sat at the CO's desk and made some calls. I called my mother, called my sister. I called one of the preachers that I know, called a few people from my phone. And just to let them know that I was okay. So right at the beginning, and I didn't realize that really because I was not in shock, but I was in shock because it just happened. And now I'm in prison. I hadn't had time to sit down and think about the fact that, okay, last night I was sleeping in my bed. Now tonight I'm sleeping on this metal cot. I hadn't had those thoughts yet. Those thoughts did run through my mind a little bit later that night. But I look back on it now, God gave favor immediately. So they took me, I'm in the county, but I'm state prison now because I was sentenced by the state, convicted by the state. So they take me and they put me, and I told you about this intake room that they have. There was a room where everybody who had been arrested that particular day, they bring them to the same room. Now it was an open room, a big room with about, I'd say about 10 or 12 bunk beds. And at the end of the room, there was a shower that everybody in a bathroom, a toilet that everybody in that room, while they were waiting to be processed, they had to stay there overnight and they would process them the next day. So they had to stay in that room and everybody had to shower or go to the bathroom if you had to go to the bathroom, kind of in front of everybody. And on one side of the room, there were private cells with doors with a small window, and you couldn't see in the cell unless you went up to the window and peeked into the window. And they put me in one of those rooms. So I'm in the intake isolation room. And I was there for about, I think I stayed there 2 nights before they moved me to another area, another tier in the jail. And I stayed there another 2 nights before they took me to the state prison, which was CRAF, C-R-A-F, Central Relocation and Assignment Facility. That's where they take everybody. It's in Trenton. They take everybody who is jailed, who's convicted, who's arrested, who's convicted, who is sentenced. They take everybody there from all over the counties in the state, and they take you there and they decide what they're going to do with you. They put you in a category and you either stay there and craft or they take you and place you at another prison based on your status, another prison in the state. So that the first night, maybe about 3 or 4 hours after I had been in that room or that cell by myself, I said to myself, okay, what are you going to do? One of the things that I discussed with myself was that, okay, when this is all said and done, I don't want to look like this whole incident, this whole nightmare had a negative impact on me physically. So I made up my mind in a couple of hours that I was going to eat. I got to eat. Whatever they give me, I'm going to eat it. And sure enough, they brought some food in that is prison food. And anybody who's ever been in prison, yes, it's exactly what you think it is or what they say it is or what they make it look like on the movies. Prison food sucks. It does. It's cold. It's bad. It's bad. But I started a habit at that point that I still have today. I decided that whatever they bring me, I'm going to eat it because I got to eat. I know it's nasty, so eat it fast. So whatever they brought, I ate it fast. I just ate, and I do that still today. And Serena kind of looks at me like I'm crazy, and because I just eat fast now. I suck it down, and don't play around. Be where you are. You know, if it's time to eat, eat. We'll be talking and looking at TV and whatnot. Eat. So that's what I do. Again, there was favor. All the while there was favor. I didn't recognize it then, but I know it now. I guess word had gotten out that I had been sentenced and that I was in the jail, the county jail. Word got out amongst those who had been in the jail already, those who were working in the kitchen, those who had some of the jobs. So there was a young cat who came after I got the food from the regular guys who come around. There was another young cat who came around, knocked on the door. He said, "Irving, Mr. Fryar." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm so-and-so." It was somebody, I can't mention any names. I have to protect the innocent. Well, we all weren't considered innocent because we were in prison. But anyway, he said, "I'm and it was somebody else that I grew up with right there in Mount Holly. "I'm so-and-so's son. I work in the kitchen." Now, he brought me some of the food that the correction officers ate. He brought me a hamburger, cheeseburger. I said, "Wow, that's cool." So it was close to regular food, and I got a chance to eat, what seemed to be a little bit normal. So I spent the next 3 days. I spent 4 days in the county. They had to get me out of there because I wasn't county property. I was state property. So 3 days later, they come to my cell. And by the way, we're able to come out of the cell for an hour a day, sit in the tier. I would come out and sit in the tier. In the second cell they put me in, there was a tier where there's a little TV. It was like an open area where you can walk around. And I would sit in the tier after I took a shower. They let you take a shower. And then I sit in the tier for the rest of the hour that I was allowed out of my cell. And they put you back in the cell. So you were in the cell for 23 hours and you were allowed out for an hour. And it was right there in the tier, just outside the cell. So they took me, came and got me. They shackled my hands together. And then they attached that to a belt that was around my waist. And then there was a chain that went from my waist to my feet or to my ankles. And they had my ankles shackled together, attached to that chain. So I got a chain on my hands, all right? And then there's a chain from my hands or wrists going down to my belt. And then there's another chain from a belt going down to my ankles. And that chain wraps around both my ankles, all right? And they took me and they put you in these vans. And every time I see one of those vans, I get quivery. I see them out all the time now. New Jersey DOC, Department of Corrections, because you can't move. They put you in, you sit sideways. They got to help you get in because you're shackled in your feet and you can't take a step up high enough to get into the van or step down low enough to get out of the van. So I have to help you out, help you in and help you out. And you sit like this sideways with other people in the van because there's no room in the front, no room in the back. You can't move. And I know for a fact that they transport people like that across country. If they have to transport you somewhere, the DOC, they put you in one of those vans and you can't move. That was tight. I'm glad I didn't have to go real far. They take me to Craft, get out of the van. It was me and probably the van was full. And then there was another van that pulled up when we pulled up at Craft. So it's probably maybe 15, 16 of us. Get out of the van. We go in Craft. There's a CO in a window when you first go in that asks a bunch of questions. And you answer the questions, then they take you in the next room and they undress you. They make you stand in front of them naked. You got to bend over, open up your cheeks and cough, all that kind of stuff. It's just absolutely embarrassing, 100% embarrassing. Then They sent us in the shower. All of us are in the shower, in the same shower to shower. After you get out the shower and you're walking, you know, the COs are around. It was like, what? Anyway, get out of the shower. Then they give you your prison clothes for craft, which were a pair of khaki. It's a khaki shirt without a collar and khaki pants that had an elastic band in it. It didn't have a zipper or belt loops or a belt. It was just an elastic band, like Zubas. Anybody who remembers Zubas. An elastic band, and you get a pair of Bobo sneakers, Converse Bobo sneakers, the cheap Bobo sneakers, and you get 2 pair of socks, I think it was, 2 T-shirts, and 2 pair of underwear. And they give you this mesh bag that you keep it in because you want to use the mesh bag when it's laundry time for them to do your laundry. And then they put me in a holding cell with all of the guys who were coming in at that time. The sergeant, one of the sergeants who was running that shift at the time comes. They bring me to his office, and he asks me a few questions. And one of the questions he asked me was, "Do you feel are you in fear of your life being here? Do you feel like you're threatened? Do you feel like you're going to be okay?" He said, because if you don't feel like you're going to be okay, then we're going to have to put you in isolation. Then he said this: "You don't want to be in isolation." I said, "You're right. I don't want to be in isolation. I've been in isolation for the last 4 days." And I mean, it's amazing. You know, it's amazing how time bears differently depending on the situation that you're in. You know, they say time flies when you're having fun. That's exactly 100% correct. Time flies when you're having fun. Those first 4 days I spent in the county jail, y'all, it seemed like an hour was a whole day. I mean, it was just absolutely, time was a snail. It could not have gone. It was like it was going backwards. Unbelievable. So he said, you don't want to be in isolation. I told him, I said, no, I'm cool. I'm good. I don't feel, like I'm going to get hurt or anything like that. So he said, okay. So they took me and they walked me upstairs to this tier. Now, tier is an area. It's a long area. It has, at the beginning of it, it has a big gate. And Craft is an older prison, so it's like these old prisons where you pull a lever and stuff start making noise, and then the big gate opens and you walk into the tier. And outside the big gate is where the CO for that tier sits. He sits right outside that gate, and he's the one who opens and shuts the gate. But you pull all these levers, and the gate opens up, and then you walk down the tier. Now, they had set aside a cell for me all the way at the end of the tier, and my cell was the 16th cell. So I had to walk past all the other cells, and there were already some of the cats or some of the inmates who were in that tier. They were out at the couple of tables that were in the tier, playing cards or just kind of walking around. I guess it was free time or time they didn't have to be in the cell. And most of the time when you had to be in the cell was when they were counting. Other than that, in that particular tier, they would open the cells and you can go in and out of your cell just into the tier and kind of interact with the other inmates who were in that tier. Now, there were other parts of the prison that you still had to stay in your cell, like I did in the county. You had to stay in your cell for 23 hours out of the day, and they would only let you out for an hour. But that wasn't the tier that I was in. I was in a tier with high profile, what they consider to be high profile people. So most of the guys, or I should say a lot of the guys that were there, they were former police officers in that tier who, for whatever reason, were convicted of some kind of crime. There were former corrections officers there in that tier. There were former politicians that were there in that tier. And then I was in the tier. So I had to walk past everybody, so to speak, not just all the cells, but everybody to get to my cell. Didn't know that until it actually happened. Let me tell you what happened when I got to my cell. So I get to my cell. I got my little bag. I got my little khakis on and my little bobos, and I got my little bag with the underwear, a couple pairs of underwear, a couple socks, and I get to my cell, and there's a bunk bed in the cell. Now I had a cell to myself. They put me in a cell by myself. All the other cells had bunk beds, but there were two people in the cells, unless somebody had just left, and then somebody would be by themselves until they brought somebody else in. But I had a cell by myself. So I go in. The bars, it's bars. It's not like it was in the county. These cells had bars, just like you see on TV, just like old school. It was bars. Boom. When they closed, boom. It was crazy. I go in and I put the stuff I had in my hands on the top bunk, and I'm kind of pulling it out. Just, I guess I'm numb. I had to be numb, just trying to like, okay, just deal with this. You're going to have to deal with this. Deal with it. So I'm just kind of, I guess, trying to get myself together. I mean, I wasn't discombobulated, but I'd never been in prison like this before. I'd had been arrested before falsely for, like one time I was traveling and the cops thought I was speeding too much, so they arrested me and brought me in and let me go. But this situation was never. I've never been in this situation before. So I go in and I'm taking this stuff out of my bag, and to my right is my door, the cell door, the bars. And these cats start coming in my cell. So now I'm thinking, okay, I just got here. I got a fight already. That's what I was thinking. Because they're walking. Two of them walked in my cell. And I guess I watched too much TV because I'm thinking, I got to prove myself already. Somebody about to get hurt because I'm mad. It's the wrong time, fellas. Wrong time. But that's not what they came in the cell for. They came into the cell, introduced themselves here, and then they handed me some food. Now, while you're there, long story short, while you're at the prison, if you happen to get a job at the prison, or if you don't have a job, as long as you have money on your books, you can buy food from the canteen, what they call the canteen. You could buy not that craft, but you could buy food, peanut butter. You could buy cookies. You could buy pretzels. You could buy soap powder, things that you would need to wash your own clothes. If you wanted to wash your own clothes, you could buy these plastic bins, which is what I did. So I washed my own clothes in these plastic bins in my cell, and rather than sending it out in the mesh bag to be washed with everybody else's stuff. No, you learned, and I was taught, here, you want to get this soap powder and you want to get one of these containers and you want to wash your own clothes in your own cell rather than let them take it out and wash it with everybody else's stuff. So they started bringing me these necessities. Everybody one walked in, walked out. Next one walked in, next one walked in. Everybody from the tier started bringing me necessities, toothpaste, socks, because all you got was 2 pair of socks, 2 pair of underwear, and 2 undershirts when you first got there, and 1 pair of bobos. And if you had to spend any significant amount of time in prison, 2 pair of underwear wasn't going to do it. 2 pair of socks weren't going to make it. 2 pair of t-shirts wasn't going to be enough. So I got new packs of underwear, new packs of t-shirts in stoner packs from when they bought them from the canteen, cookies, food, things that I was going to need while I was there. And I asked one of the cats, why are you doing this? Why? And I'm thinking to myself, because, okay, I'm Irving. They know I'm Irving, the football player, and they just, they trying to whatever. And he said, no, that's what we do for everybody who comes in. We here on this tier, we know that it's a bad time for everybody who's here, but you just got here. And we know that this bad time just started for you. And we know, we don't know what state of mind you're in. So to make it a little bit easier for you, not that this is easy, but to make it a little bit easier for you, we give you things that you need because, and here's what he said, because we've all, whether we are or not, we've all been found guilty. So nobody asked, I mean, my stuff was on the news, so they kind of had an idea why I was convicted, but nobody asked, and that's one of the things nobody asked, well, why are you in? That's a true statement. You probably seen that or heard that on TV or heard somebody say about it. Don't ask anybody why they're in prison when you're in prison. Nobody asks that question, but it's not because you don't want to offend them, but it's because everybody's been found guilty of whatever. And I begin to think about that. That scenario, when I look back on it now, that whole scenario blesses me. It blessed me then, but it's also a picture of Christendom. That's how we as Christians are supposed to be. When people come in the church, when people are looking for God, when people are hurting, we're supposed to come alongside of them and be a blessing to them and make sure that they have what they need. Most people, when they come to the church, most people, when they decide to seek Christ, usually it's because something is happening that's uncomfortable or even terrible in their life. And I've heard so many stories of church folk who run people out of the church because they come in a certain way. They come in living a certain kind of way, or come in dressed a certain kind of way, come in looking a certain kind of way. Understand this, just like the one cat said to me in the prison, the Bible says all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. The Bible says all of us are guilty. All of us are guilty, and none of us deserve a second chance. But because of the love of God, he sent his son Jesus to die on the cross to redeem us, to forgive us, to justify us, that we might have a right relationship with him. And that just blessed me in prison. And I thought to myself, you know what? The way people have been treating me, the way people outside the prison have been dogging me and walking away from me. And I'm not whining. I'm not crying. I'm not complaining. I'm giving you facts. These are facts. These are facts. Most of the people I know walked away from me. Most of the people I know dogged me. Most of the people I know treated me a certain kind of way that made me feel bad. And I had to go to prison to meet some good people. I had to go to prison to meet good people. I still stay in touch with a few of those cats. I do. Because they were good dudes. Yeah, we all make mistakes. Yeah, we all do things wrong. But man, and I don't know if it's because they learned a lesson because they were in prison, but prison's not about reform. Prison, I guess they tried to make prison about being reformed or rehabilitation, but prison's not about that. Prison is about suffering. They want you to suffer. That's what prison is about in the 21st century. I don't know what it used to be about. I know at first when prisons first started, that it was about suffering. At some point, I guess the system was trying to change it because maybe it wasn't, they weren't doing anything that was helping people, or people who were coming out of prison weren't coming out and being productive in life. So they tried to change what happens in prison and make prison a situation where it rehabilitates you. But that's not the case anymore. Prison is not about rehabilitation. It's about punishment. But I met some good people there. And you know what? I'm out of time. I'll get to, you know what? If my guests, maybe I'll push my guests back next week. Maybe. But that was the first portion. From there, and there's story behind it, but that's just the first. I stayed in craft for 45 days. I ended up staying in prison for 8 months because because I had a 5 flat. I was in no priors. I was immediately, and had not been in trouble before, so I was immediately eligible for parole or probation, not probation, but ISP, which is called Intensive Supervision Program. And I ended up coming out of prison after 8 months and spending 21 months on ISP. That's a whole nother animal right there that we'll talk about on our next show. Yeah, it's been an hour, and I don't want to take up all your time. Anybody got any comments? Anybody? You guys are still talking about the water. Here you go. Cousin, I'll never treat you bad, Irving. You'll always be my guy. Yeah, cuz, I know. We're good. And I believe you. I do. But understand this too. There are a lot of people that said that. Yeah, a lot of people said, but I believe you. You're right. Because guess what? You're here, you're supporting, and you're making it verbal. So your actions are actually speaking louder than your words. There is okay, let me put this. This is Elder Sherry Brown. I'm going to put that over my head. There's a remnant of people, good people in New Jerusalem. You're right. It's a remnant of people who remain by your side by praying and supporting you and the ministry throughout your ordeal as well. You are exactly right. And those are the ones who are still there. It's a remnant. And they supported. Here's what I believe. And y'all gonna make me talk. Y'all gonna make me talk a little bit longer than I want. And yes, we all have a story. Brother Hunt, good to see you. Are you the camera junkie? Is that you, David Hunt? This is a very powerful story. We have a eCam community, and I think that's you, Brother Hunt. Are you the one they call the camera junkie? Let me know in the comments. But yes, there's a remnant. I believe this about church, and I believe this about what happened at our church. First of all, our church has not survived, but thrived through not just me. I mean, we went through back to back, y'all. Think about this, TNJ. Those of you who are here, who are watching, who are from TNJ. Think about this. We went through that whole thing where your pastor went to prison and convicted of a crime. He's a felon now. Wow. I mean, people expected the church to close. There were people that I talked to probably a year or two after. I would see them a year or two after I was out of prison. And, what are you doing now? Well, I'm pastoring. You still pastoring? You still got a church? And believe me, I tried not to. I thought real hard about it and tried not to pastor when I came out because I just couldn't understand. I didn't understand how after all of that with a felony, all of the talk, all the stuff in the paper, all the people dogging me, how could I come out and pastor and be effective? And God was very plain, very, very simple when he said, I'm the one who hired you. I'm the only one that could fire you. Get your black behind back up in the pulpit and do what I told you to do. So that's what I did. But I believe this about people. Oh, that's Lewis. Okay. Lewis is the camera junkie. All right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you a junkie. God bless you, bro. I appreciate you. He said that's Lewis. Okay. Lewis is the camera junkie. Got you. Here's what I believe about people and church. I believe when someone joins a church, they join that church because they're led by God to join that church. Okay. Just like when somebody starts pastoring, they're unctioned, they're led, they're called by God to pastor. Okay. And people are called to that ministry. God brings them to that ministry. So they should be led when someone joins a church. And if you joined the church and this is not the case, then you should really reconsider. God should lead you to that church. So if you ever were to leave that church, it would be God telling you to leave that church. That's how it used to be with old school. That's why you see, I have an uncle who's been a deacon longer than I've been alive. He's been a deacon down at Second Baptist Church down the street from us, down the street from TNJ in Mount Holly. He's been a deacon there. I'm 59 now. He's been a deacon more than 60 years. Why? Because God told him first to join that church. And now that he's joined that church and connected to that church, and he's got a different pastor now. His pastor passed away. Pastor Bobbitt passed away. And there were years where they didn't have a pastor, but he stayed with the church because God led him to that church. And God did not tell him to leave the church. So if a person leaves the church, it should be the same as when they went to the church or joined the church. It should be an unction by God or a directive of God. And if God doesn't tell you to leave, then you shouldn't leave. And we've had people leave. But I come to realize that not everybody that came to TNJ was a follower of Christ. There were some who were fans of Fryar. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There were some people who came because when we first started the church, I was fresh out of the NFL and people would come in, Irving Fryar's church, it's going to Irving Fryar's church. And there were people who were fans of Fryar. And when all hell broke loose, you know what happens to fans. Fans become fair weather. If God had really told them to come, then they would have stayed. And I appreciate the remnant that's at TNJ. You all don't, I can't even articulate it. You don't know how much I appreciate you because we're getting a lot done with a few people. We are. And we went through that. And then we went through COVID. Come on, TNJ. We went through one of the worst things that a church could go through. The pastor got convicted of a crime and sent to prison. Oh my gosh, that church is done. He comes out 3 years later, the churches are shut down because of COVID-19. And we're still up and kicking and running. Man, the remnant. Don't need a crew. Only need a few. Few good people thoroughly immersed with the true spirit of God are a far greater asset than thousands with lukewarm enthusiasms. Oh, y'all make me preach over here. I got to get off of here, man. Hey, Lewis, he's the camera junkie. Lewis said, I'm the camera junkie. I like that one. No offense, taking brothers. Spill your testimony. People need to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. You're right, Lewis. I appreciate you. I see you interacting with Keith all the time. That's why I got familiar with the name Camera Junkie. But you're right. Since this has happened, people have been trying to tell my story. People have been telling my story, but they don't know the story, so they can't tell it accurately. So yes, and that's a part of why I'm doing this, Lewis, is because if my story is going to be told, I'm going to tell it because I know all of the facts. I know why, I know what, where, I know when, I know how, I know all of that. And again, I don't discuss it or talk about it based on how I feel or based on what somebody else said or based on anything other than the facts. That's what I present, the facts. Because that's what makes the difference. The facts are the truth. After the facts, there's a period. After the truth, there's a period. You can't add anything to it because the truth is the truth. And when you know the truth will set you free. I believe God is leading me. We got to listen, Richard, I believe God is leading you too to become an e-member TNJ. I promise you, by end of next week, we're going to have a page up on our website to get our e-membership together. All right. We need to I talked about this last week at the end of the service last Saturday, because that's what God gave me while I was away in Cancun to get our e-membership applications and our e-membership part of our ministry to get that up and going and get our act together. So that will be available for you by this time next week. That is my promise to you. 18 years, people counted us out, but we still here. Yeah. That's my sister Faith, Pastor Faith. She's the associate pastor at TNJ. 18 years, people counted us out. We still here. Yeah. What's the other song? Started from the bottom, now we're here. Oh, listen, I'm going to come back and finish. We stopped at craft, but there's another 5-6 months I got to talk about over at Jones Farm, because that's where I ended up going after craft. So we'll talk about that next week. I really do appreciate all of you. Exactly, Pastor. Yeah. Appreciate all of you joining in and participating. That's what we want. We want you to come on, and that's why we do this live, so that we can interact with one another and keep these conversations like fire. I like that. I want to do that again. We're done. We're going to be back next week, same time, same place, same purpose, same mission, to have a conversation that is hot. All right. We want to shout out to Alicia Way, all these overlays. Shout out to Lou Rogers, Vision, Audio, Visual. Please don't forget, this broadcast, this podcast has been brought to you by Ecamm, visual software made for Mac that carries your message across the world. Listen, we want to holler at all of you, Sherry and Richard and Faith and Lewis and David Hunt and Tanti Ruth Ann, I'm sorry. Vinny Capriati, yes. I said Sherry. Mike Witt, hey, man. That's an old high school buddy of mine, baseball player. Is that you? Are you still watching? If you are, throw something in the comments, man. All right. Richard got a lot of comments. Hope, you still watching. Jamie, you still watching. God bless you. Thank you for joining in today. Good to see all of you. Mom, thank you for your support. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Listen, we're going to be back next week. Mike, you can throw it up in the comments, because I can show it while we're going out. We'll see all of y'all next week here at the Fireplace, where the conversations are fire. Y'all hang in there. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. All right? God bless.